See, I am giving you today a blessing, God says in the beginning of this parsha. So long as you listen to me, and what's going to happen? I'm going to bring you to the Holy Land, and you're going to celebrate there. Together with your households, you shall feast there before your God, happy in all the undertakings in which your God has blessed you. The blessings is meant to be a physical celebration of success and material abundance. A blessing to show God's abundance and showing gratitude towards that. The Pri Haaretz questions that if the reward is the motivation for the blessing, so God's going to look upon us with this vision that doesn't just take in but casts and projects, and God projects divine energy to the places that express dveikus to Hashem, a place that resonates with the divine plan, gets divine energy to continue on that mission, so we can see this miracle experiment unfold, where we actually succeed in bringing godliness into a very dark expanse of nothingness. We bring a lot of light. The process favors and describes how you're going to celebrate in a physical way. You're going to have all these mitzvahs to express your love for Hashem and the desire to celebrate and have gratitude towards Hashem. So you give meiser, you tithe your earnings, and you live a life of faith. You get a blessing when you do it the right way. It seems odd to put so much emphasis on the physical outcome. Now remember, Moshe Rabbeinu davened 515 prayers to try and enter the land. He wanted to do physical mitzvahs. There's something special and unique about that. But the way that it's tied into bounty and flourishing, as that is the main focus of a bracha, of bringing blessings into your life, seems difficult to understand from the perspective of Chassidus, which always talks about the spiritual aspirations being numero uno in our vocabulary. Yet the Torah speaks a lot about success, victory, beauty, and such superficial things, you would think. And this piece of Chassidus by the Pri Haaretz deals with that question and brings out a fascinating insight into what we're doing on this planet. So I really want to learn some of that with you. And I first want to start with the Rebbe's description of each of the words of the beginning of the parsha. Re'ei, see, this is all a blessing, which is something that is gifted from above. A bracha is like a brecha. You would take the shoot of the vine and put it back into the earth, and it will sprout forth again down your field and have, I guess, some foundation in the earth. So a bracha is to take a divine foundation and an energy from there and draw it into the physical world. This is all reflected in each word of the verse, all the way to the word blessing. Re'ei and neichi. Re'ei, I'm going to do this a little bit fast because I want to get to the Pri Haaretz by the end of this class. So Re'ei, see, Re'iyah is something that is set apart from hearing, another sense of ours that we have, blessed with, please God. Eina deima shmiel Re'iyah, it says in the Mechilta. You can't, there's no resemblance between what you gain by seeing to hearing. Seeing is superior. Shalachen ein nasa dayan kevan dechaz zayu. Since if there's a witness that saw something, he can't be a judge because he cannot consider any merit. He had his perspective and it's ingrained in his or her mind. Loi matzu le schusa. he's not going to be able to find favor in that person, given that first-hand encounter through sight. Which is not the case when the judge hears from witnesses and testimony they are the ones who saw it, so it's removed one generation. And what among the differences between these two ways we take in information, that hearing is expressive of listening, which is an asserted effort. You have to apply effort to pay attention and listen, I suppose. Shetefes prat acharei prat, taking in one detail at a time. Hearing about a story, you can't tell me every word in the story at the same time. You'll give away the ending as well. Ad leklalis ha'inyan, until you arrive at a general picture through hearing about its details. So a novel is always a little bit more expansive than a picture can tell you a million things that the guy's going to describe. Whereas vision is something that is gifted from above. Shetefes milatchila, because from the outset you take in the whole thing. V'achak prate hadvarim, and then you take the time whenever you want to zoom in on the things that you want to understand better. You see a whole picture of the thing, right away you're granted all that. I'm just gonna invite some of my friends. There we go. For the cause. Vision is something that projects, and therefore when you see something, you have from the top down perspective, the bird's eye view. You take the whole scenery in one shot. So it's like a way to bypass the whole system and zoom in on whatever you want, or to have a more direct and intimate connection with something, being more present, having da'as, we've been saying this whole week. Whoops. Welcome. I flipped when you came. See that? I did a Geula, somersault. So re'eh, see, in other words, accept this projected divine energy that's coming from God's attention, or whatever we give attention to. That's where we draw divine energy and channel it how it may go, depending on what our intent is. Anaichi, so this blessing is of sight, see, anaichi, the sophisticated way of saying I. When you add a chaf, which is keser, the crown, it's like a royal eye. Like you need a name like Ecclesiastes to be able to say anaichi. So re'eh anaichi, see that I, haidas atzmusei mulsei, which is referring to the very the most inherent qualities of divinity, anaichi, God's introduction to the world. Derech hagbavis nasus, in a way that is transcendental, transcendent, something that is beyond. Milmaila lamata, again indicating that it's something that the source is emphasized here, how the vision is something that's bird's eye view. Aneichi tells us that the same point, that there's a hagbavis nasus, there's an elevation when you say I in this way. So the blessing comes from a very deep source, which the Rebbe points out here, that's the difference between the ani, me, and aneichi, I. Afshe perush sham reiv eis yesem aleph nun yud, shavim, even though they're the meaning of the word and the majority of the letters, 3 out of 4 of the letters of Anechi, out of 5 letters, I guess, if you get a vav in it. No, there's no vav in it. They don't put the vav. So you have ani, you just add a chaf, and you have Anechi. Keshe meidia stam aimer ani plani. When a person that's just a regular guy says I, he says me. It's like without. It's like E. Cummings saying I. He'll probably do it with a lowercase I. Just a guy saying I. It's one is a spark of consciousness in the mass universe. But if you really want to say I, like a king, then you say Anechi. Anechi haraya, as Shmuel Hanavi said, I am the seer. Anechi, you didn't say ani, like what do you see if you're just an ani and you're just a kaf, alluded to in the fact that you just add the letter kaf to this, and that is kaf hadimyon. The kaf, the letter kaf says it's like. It's like. So Anechi is a suggestion that it transcends. There's an allegory there. And we see this, the Rebbe says, in likening the future redemption to the Exodus from Egypt. The progenitor, the original Exodus, is meant to have an eternal Exodus following it, and the miracles that were famous in that time is going to be like the miracles in the coming redemption is going to be like that. That like is to say that it's going to make an allegory out of that for the real thing. So the main fireworks is always at the end. You start with the little fizzles, right? Gandalf can't give it all away in the beginning of the show. So when Anechi, you're talking about something that is miraculous in its beyondness. And Nason, from there's a gift. Milmaila Lamata, again, it's from above to below, from the creator to the created. Nason Daika, it's a gift. Kol Nason Bayin Yafahu Nason. As we say, that when we're talking about a gift, you can assume that the extra chattels are included. If it's a gift, because the guy's trying to be generous. If it's a contract, then you were very detailed about include every shepsel in the roster. When you give with a good eye. You want the person to enjoy the gift. Lifneichen, where's the gift? If you give me the gift while it's on the highway, thanks a lot, Charlie. The winning lottery ticket fuddling about on the highway. If you're in a motorcycle, you can do a donut and get it. So it's not going to waste. The gift is somewhere that speaks to you. It's your inward life, what you care about. That's where Hashem gives this gift. Again, emphasizing that the gift is something that's accessible and relevant and transformative of where you are to where this blessing will take you. That the way you take in a blessing, real transformation happens when first you approach the obstacle or the problem or the aspiration from a genuine, authentic, inward perspective. You take the thing in deep and let everything else flourish from there. So that's going to be the answer, I think, to the pre-ha'aretz we're going to learn in a minute. How the emphasis is on physical blessings. It seems very superficial for everything to be dependent upon that outcome. Maybe we'll sit in the meta and meditate all day and achieve enlightenment that way. Are you a buyer of those stocks? I don't mess in that, but I find it amusing, and I find it as science fiction unfolding before our eyes. We are entering the science fiction world. This guy actually has a plot that he's telling his investors that he's going to try and keep people inside this world, make it addictive, and people will just lie on the beds they might get a tan instead of an AI zapping their energy out of them. So the gift is something that affects us inwardly, because inwardly is genuine transformation, and it reaches the outside too. It starts on the inside. That's a gift. When you take something in from the inside first, everything else, every pore is going to be cleansed. And afterwards, it progresses from there to affect the outside, the extremities, the superficial. Remember, Mashiach is called a leper, which is something that just sort of shimmers off the surface of your skin and doesn't quite touch. All that we're lacking now, good and bad, is very obvious to any normal, sane person, which is very few. How many sane people do you know? You're lucky if you can name under 5 people that you'd say, that guy's really got his head screwed on right. How many people could you say that about? But growing up as a naive child, I assumed everyone was good. And I looked back and I said, wow, people were manipulative. Wow. And then my next door neighbor, they were from a different country, but I mean, and she took a ladle or something, like a short ladle, and smacked the kid outside across the face while we watched. And she wasn't even ashamed. That was how these kids were brought up. So to get ourselves out of that, work on the inside first. Let it shine out your face. If we're talking about something that the average guy, the mortal person can do, he can only take incremental steps. He can't do the top-down bird's eye perspective, so he thinks. And he just relies on his own efforts, which start from scrubbing his face and taking a shower in the morning. The most superficial things we do to start our day. So you go incrementally. If you're already in the Zen and you're in the shower, there's no difference between that and later on when you're putting on tefillin. Everything has to be expressive of God's divine essence, which is in everything. So there's a lot of room for us to grow in this way. Here we're talking about the fast track approach of getting a blessing, a bracha. You're supposed to see this unfolding in your life today. And maybe we'll go over again the prophecy the Rebbe says here. The Rebbe says this is a prophecy in italics, the whole thing. That Hashem saying through his prophets that to every single Jew, that when we speak about this verse, that see, I am giving to you today a blessing, that literally today, and the Rebbe knows that we're going to be reading this 31 years later, literally today, we are seeing with our eyes the blessing of the redemption, the true and complete redemption. That is what we're supposed to see unfolding. I hope every single person that comes to this class can see in their lives something miraculous, something that is a redemption. A redemption in your life. It will start from a blessing that affects your thinking, the inside. And it will be in a way of hayom. I'm giving to you today, Shemeir al ha'er ve'gilui, which reflects on the idea of the light of day. Bring things to light, make things overt, face our problems within first. As it says that God called the day, the light, he called it day. Umayra gamal hanitzkias, daytime also refers to an ongoing, the eternal present. Nitzchias, eternality, which our sages say, every place that it says hayom, it means forever, even this day. Literally today, Chadashi Mamesh, literally today, quotes Rashi. So this is a gift that gives in perpetuity, forever. That's the type of blessing that we're talking about here, and we have to understand that the context, how this is said, is that this is a power to bring to our eyes the unfolding of redemption in your life in an individual way. It doesn't have to be as a political movement. Trust me on that. It will result in that too. It starts inward, and then it goes, finally gets to the who's going to get the keys to unlock the palace. That is just a natural outcome we're going to learn. So today, today I'm giving you a blessing which is all about drawing down. Bracha miloshen hamshacha means to draw. Blessing is to draw down. Vad shleimus habracha madrega nailis b'yesir b'kinas sostum shelechanem miloshen hafek habracha, including the type of blessing that is so high that you can't understand. You would say that it's the opposite of a blessing, and then when you understand what the purpose of it, you'd say, wow, that eye operation that I had with the lasers and everything, it was terrifying, probably the scariest 40 minutes of my life, but it was probably the most beneficial 20 minutes or for each eye that I've ever done for anything. I hated not being able, I woke up and I couldn't see anything, and I'd have to look to, if my tie's on straight, you'd have to look into the mirror so close, and bang, vision. When I opened my I couldn't believe that I could see the second hand on the clock without the assistance of the magnifying glass. Wow, what a miracle that is. So the ultimate vision is when you could see in the opposite of the blessing, the ultimate blessing. So we're going to look at Bilam's, what he tried to do to us. That is represented from a Baal Tshuva who takes something that would appear to be so negative and transform that into a blessing, who in that way transcends even the greatness of a tzaddik gomer, the totally right, well, at least a tzaddik. I don't want to add a word here to what the Rebbe is saying. And in this way, the darkness itself transforms into light. Indicating how when you take from the lowest thing, the darkest thing, and make that into light, that is a much more lofty expression of transformation. Okay, I have to have my eyes on that all the time. While I do this, the pre-haaretz. Whoops. Pre-haaretz on this. That's the Rebbe's explanation of each of the words in that begin the verse. So here we quote the same verse, and we say, "Diktuk harav lashen neisen shu k'mei davar gashmi." When you say you're giving something, it's if you say you got a gift, you're not going to say the guy thought about you for 10 minutes and he had goodwill upon you. You say, no, he gave you a gift. You think a gift is something that you give, and it's a physical thing that you could throw into your closet or treasure. And so when you give something physical, you know you got it, right? That is given miyad liyad, from hand to hand. V'hiktim arav lazed divrei habal avedis hakedesh shehikshal kol hayudim and gashmim. The Baal Avedis HaKodesh questions all the promises about physical abundance that's coming your way if you just do these things. Wow, that's what it's all about. It's all about having a big palace, just like we were brought up, understanding the American dream is like little pink houses for you and me, for the staff, the little pink houses. We'll have these fantastic white mansions and little shacks. You really feel wealth when the other guy has a little pink house or a little shack, and you have the palace. If everyone had the same thing, you wouldn't feel, okay, that's just the standard. Everyone gets that, don't they? Every kid these days is born with an iPhone in their hand. It's expected that you give it, just like you would pay tuition or something like that. So, Yehudim Gashmim, promises of physical blessings. What? Shabbatera Kemoi Im Bechukaisai Telechu, if you walk in the way of my statutes, Benasati Gishmecha Bitam. We don't realize this, but everything depends on rain. The word Geshem is Gashmias, it's physical. Everything physical comes from the rain. Probably even plastic somehow comes from rain. And I'll give you the rains in its time. You don't want, if you're making a party, you don't want to have rain on it. So we'll save it for Friday night when everyone's already in the inside for the Shabbos meal. Rain is also Gvura Segeshomin. The Gvura, the discipline in rain, is that you don't plunk it all down in one splash, but it comes in little packages, raindrops, that allow time for the earth to absorb it and doesn't drown everything. So there's like severity in giving. You want to give properly, there has to be a withholding too. You can't smack the guy in the face with this new present that you got him, unless they were boxing gloves. I guess that would work. So if you walk in my statutes, I'm going to give you rain, I'm going to give you everything. You'll get one of those tabletop Space Invaders or Pac-Man. Asher Hitmiya Rabbah. So Rabbah was bewildered by this, sage of the Gemara. The key kol schar mitzvahs he said gashmis. Is the entire reward for mitzvahs a physical thing? I'm gonna get more Twinkies if I give a coin in the pushka, the charity box. V'amar bal hasefer hanal. So this author answers that the Torah is not talking about this being a reward. It's just telling you, you might not know the mechanics of how one guy succeeds and one guy doesn't. Okay, we got to understand why the wicked thrive. It's also discussed. But the plan that the Torah lays out is if you do these things, this and this is going to happen. It's not saying that's the reward for the thing. It's just saying that that's the natural result because you just use things associated with the mitzvah that you did and elevated all the forest that the esrog came from, right? You need to have an esrog field that takes a whole esrog agricultural system to all function around this esrog that you're going to pay $1,000 for when then the next day it's 25 cents if you're going to use it to throw it at somebody. They did throw it in. The Saduki he didn't get stoned, he got esrogged. So the reward isn't those things. That's just saying that's what's going to happen. You can't understand the mechanics of the world. So here we're saying if you put money in the pushka, then you're going to get many times, 100 times, or mea sharim, 100 times more you'll get, or at least 10 times more. If you're going to want to make 10 times, give a tenth. So this isn't telling you the reward for it, it's just telling you the mechanics of how everything is lined up to, like we used to have in the science center, you can go into like one of those space shuttle things, and there's be like a million dials. They didn't even have labels, I don't think. Like, they didn't say air conditioner, heating. They didn't even go that far. They just put, like, sometimes they would like have a light go on, and that would be very exciting for us. You have to be pretty young, I suppose, but it didn't do anything. Right? You didn't, and if it did something, you don't know what it's going to do. Maybe it'll turn on a red light. Here, the Torah is telling you, you want to have health, so be a nice person, etc. It's not telling you the reward, that's something else. Because the actual reward is something that can't be bounded by dimensions like anything in the physical world. So you're going to get a gift, it's only going to be so big. How big is a Tesla truck already? It's big, but it's only that big. If it was too big, you would not be able to do anything with it. It would be completely useless. So everything in this world is inherently sized, shelf-sized. But spiritual is infinite. It's not limited. So again, it brings the question, why do we have the physical thing as the main thing? It seems like it's a side topic now. Really, we're saying that the point of mitzvahs is the dveikus haruchnis, that you get a spiritual dveikus, an experience of something that is not limited to physical dimensions and amounts. Like, how good was that cocktail? It was really good. Oh, was it really, really good? At some point, you're going to just get bored. My daughter, God bless her, once wrote me I guess she had to fill the page for her assignment. She had to write me a letter. I guess she was creative in an unexpected way, thinking outside the box. Daddy, Tata, I love you so much. Okay, there's only, how many souls can you fit on the page already? So, spiritual, there's always somewhere higher to go. It still seems limiting, though, even in the spiritual. So that's also the questions begged there. So the physical things is just a byproduct that's brought as a result of dveikus. If you have dveikus, which is probably most people that are going to come to the office this morning in your business location, is not going to say that they had dveikus this morning while they're doing yoga or running in the park. Or maybe they will say they have a runner's high. How many people do you know that came back from a davening and didn't talk about the stock market, but they talked about their davening? Wow, I can't believe the incredible experience I have. It was greater than when I drove the VW out west as a teenager. So if you have dveikus, that becomes the trigger for these physical blessings that are simply supposed to accommodate the bed that you lie in the meta, or the environment, rather, Havdil, that you have in a Jewish life. That creates an environment that allows for dveikus to be the channel for enhancing the environment where that happens in, simply as a result of nature, or divine prescription within nature. Certainly that will happen as a natural result of having dveikus in godly energy, chayas alakus, aval ein ze amor l'skar. It's not intended to be spoken about in terms of reward. Have a great day.